Welcome back to Planet Doug Behind the Scenes for Sunday, July 23rd, 2023, and it's about 20 after 8 in the morning. A little bit of a late start for me. Oh, I've got my coffee behind me there. I'm in a very precarious sort of position here as we operate out of Planet Doug Studios, aka my bed. I've got my camera perched precariously on a tripod over there. And I mean, it's a good enough tripod with tripod legs for, firm ground. But, sitting on a mattress, you got to balance it just right. And then I stretch my feet out in that direction, and I have to be careful not to hit it. Anyway, and then my coffee over here, I've got to reach behind me, make sure I don't spill on top of my laptop. And then when I want to put my coffee down, I still haven't figured out any kind of a coffee table beside my bed, so there's nothing there. I end up putting it on the mattress against my leg and hope I don't forget that it's there. I've been doing this for years and years, and I still have never, knock on wood, knocked over a cup of coffee in bed. So perhaps I can keep that streak going a lot longer. And if I look different now, there's probably two reasons for that. Reason number one is that I've opened the windows to this room, and I've never done that before. The backyard to this house is right there, and it's a very busy place. This whole village is very social, and people just come and go all the time, roaring up on scooters, roaring away on scooters and motorcycles, and there's a lot of people out there moving back and forth across the window. So if I open up the windows, basically I'm on display for the entire world to see as I'm sitting in here editing video and talking into the camera. And I don't really mind that, to be honest. I'm happy to sit here and wave at people as they go by my window. But I feel like if they see me, then it kind of makes them a little bit uncomfortable. Like, oh, we better not disturb the boule, as they call me, because they have very strong feelings about me as a guest in this house. And, they worry about me and they want to take care of me. And somehow it feels like if the window is open, it would put a damper on their activity out there. They would feel like the kids who are running around and shouting and screaming, they would probably, oh, quiet, the window's open. So anyway, I normally keep the windows closed for that reason, so I don't make them uncomfortable. But then this morning, it was kind of a funny thing. This had never happened before. I was just sitting here getting ready to do this behind the scenes video, and there was a knock on my door, and it was kind of interesting. It's the woman that lives in the house, Noor, and she knocked on the door and she shouted, "Boule," knock, 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 "Boule, boule," yeah, which means foreigner in Indonesian. She's like, "Hey, foreigner, foreigner." So I opened the door, and she's dressed up in very, very nice clothing, and she's clearly going somewhere. And that's fine. They go places all the time, but for some reason she felt like today she had to tell me that she's going somewhere. And she had Google Translate open on her phone and hit the audio button, and her phone said to me, something about going to the park formally, or going to the garden park formally. And at first, because it's a knock on my door, because she's telling me something, I assumed it had to be something special, and I thought I was being invited to go somewhere. And my heart sank a little bit. There's always a bit of a weird thing when invitations happen, because I love to be invited somewhere. I mean, if they were, it's a beautiful day today again, blue skies out there. And if the family is going somewhere interesting and they're inviting me along, that's great. Let me grab my GoPro and I'll go. But these invitations often come along with no advance warning. I mean, you're just sitting here in bed drinking your morning coffee. You're not even dressed yet. You're not awake yet. And then there's a knock on the door. "Oh, do you want to come? Let's go." And it's like, I'd like to go, but I wouldn't have minded a bit of an advanced warning. Like maybe we could have talked about it yesterday, last night, and I could have prepared for it. So I just kind of assumed she was inviting me to go with them somewhere. And I was thinking, okay, I do want to go, but I'm not ready to go anywhere. So I was trying to figure out a way to say thank you, but no thank you. You know, I have things to do. But it turns out this wasn't an invitation. She was just telling me that she's going somewhere. And she was all dressed up in nice clothing. So I'm still kind of puzzling this over. Like, I'm often in this house all by myself. I mean, everybody leaves and I'm here alone. So that's nothing unusual. So why feel the urge to tell me this morning that she's going somewhere? I don't know. But yeah, something special, some sort of event for her and the family. And I guess everybody is gone. And that's why I opened the window and there's more light hitting me, which is why I may look different. It's a very, very long story to explain. I started off by saying there are two reasons why I might look different. And one reason is the window is open. I just took 10 minutes to explain why the windows are open. The other reason I might look different is that I spent yesterday almost the entire day out in the sun. So I noticed on the camera LCD screen, I looked really red. And I thought, what in the world? Like, did I hit a white balance setting on the camera? Why do I look like a tomato? You know, my t-shirts always look like a tomato, but my face not normally. But I think I got a lot of sun yesterday. So I'm probably kind of reddish from the sun. And that brings me to the story I wanted to tell for behind the scenes, because yesterday the sun was out and I decided to ride my bike to a lookout point. And I made a couple of notes here so that I can get the names right. This lookout point is on the slopes of one of the volcanoes, Mount Singalang. And I've never gone anywhere on Mount Singalang yet. All of my hikes have been on Mount Marapi, which is behind my house. I haven't gone anywhere on the slopes of Singalang yet. And the other day when I was hanging out with Chati and Fauzan, Chati was talking about this lookout point, saying that we should go there, or we could go there. We were driving around in his Suzuki four-wheel drive off-roader. And he says, yeah, you know, after we had upside down coffee. And he was saying, oh, after our coffee, you know, maybe we can ride up to this lookout point. And we never did do that because it was pretty clear that all of us were pretty tired after I took them on a long walk around the village. And I was tired. He was tired. You could tell he needed to go home. He needed a break from hanging out with the boule, and he probably needed a nap. So by the time our coffee was done, I pulled back on that idea and said, yeah, today it's probably not a good idea. I think we're all done for the day. We can go up to that lookout point some other day. And the lookout point is called, on Google Maps, Puncak Kabun. And I found out yesterday, I think Kabun means like a garden or farm, and Puncak, I believe, means like the mountain peak. So the name of this place, Puncak Kabun, is sort of like the farm on the top of the mountain. And I didn't really know what was up there. Chati showed me some video of ATV, like four-wheel drive ATVs. And I guess you can rent them up there and drive around a track. And then, of course, there would be a viewpoint, beautiful views of the scenery, as well as, you know, coffee shops or restaurants, something like that was up there. So I was hoping that if I went up there on my own, which is what I did do, I rode my bike up there, I just assumed I could have a cup of coffee or a cold drink, you know, cold coffee or something, and take in the views. So that was my plan yesterday. I didn't wake up with that idea, but when I saw how nice the weather was, I thought I shouldn't waste this sunshine. And the first thing that popped into my head was, oh, I can go there. It's only about maybe 7 kilometers total riding from here to the top at this place. So I figured, yeah, that should be okay. This little trip ended up being a bit more challenging than I expected for 2 reasons. The first is that it's been a while since I set up cameras on the bicycle. And when I left from Sumatra last time, I had just lost my GoPro stick that I used for mounting the GoPro. I'd lost it and I just bought a new one. I just bought like a cheap broomstick. And I don't think I'd even used it. Maybe I used it once, I'm not sure. But I'd been off the bike for quite a while and I'd been hanging out in Malaysia. So by the time I got back here, I wasn't in the rhythm anymore. And it wasn't as easy as just hopping on the bike and going. I had dismantled all of my mounting apparatus on the bike because it was all these GoPro mounting clamps and claws and adapters and all kinds of things I had set up. I'd removed it all from the bike because I needed some of it when I went back to Malaysia, and I didn't want to leave it all on the bike, so I took everything off. So I was sort of looking at the bike and scratching my head and going, okay, how do I do this again? Like, how do I shoot GoPro video while I'm riding the bike exactly? And I had to rummage through all of my gear and kind of remind myself. It's like, oh, yeah, that's how I do it. I put this clamp here, and I put this clamp here, and I have this adapter here, and this plugs into that, and that attaches to that, and the stick goes through, the base of the stick attaches here, and then it goes through here, and I have to aim it here, and then, oh, how do I put a camera on the end of this stick? It's like, oh, yeah, I use this RAM mount, and then I need this other adapter. Where's that adapter? And I had to recreate this system that I completely forgot about. So it took me, I'd say, an hour to get the bike ready, just mounting the camera gear. And then I had to think about what else to bring. You know, I was switching over from a knapsack to a pannier bag, what tools to bring, tire patch repair kits. Also, you know, once you start riding a bicycle and shooting video, you have to think about, okay, at some point I'm going to get off the bike, and now I'm going to want to hold the GoPro in my hand. So now I need all of my gear for holding it in my hand, and the grips and the adapters and the microphones and the batteries and the memory cards. So I'm getting all of that ready, and by the time I had the bike set up and ready to go, and all of my cameras and microphones and extra gear, I was exhausted. I was ready to go back to bed, and that was just setting up the bike, you know, and by that point I'm like, okay, I'm done. Can I go tomorrow morning? Right? That was enough for one day for me. Yeah, it took a long time. And part of the issue for me is that I don't need, but I want to have two GoPros running at the same time. So I want one filming me, and I want one filming the road ahead simultaneously, and then I want an audio track being recorded with a good microphone. And then eventually what I want to do in the editing program is I take both videos, the video from the GoPro facing me and the video from the GoPro facing forward. I pull that into the editing program, and I have to sync it up so that they are, you know, lined up at the same time. And then I have to work with the audio, get the right audio track and sync that up. And then as I edit, I have to decide which view to include in my final video. So I want to switch back and forth throughout the day from the forward-facing camera to the rear-facing camera. And there's all kinds of settings to think about, all kinds of difficulties and problems. And it was the first time I'd done this in a long time. If you do this every day, it becomes routine, and you almost have a muscle memory and a brain memory. You just sort of set it up. You just like click, 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 and you set things up. You don't have to think about it as much. But if you're doing it for the first time in a long time, it takes a lot of brain power and a lot of time to get all this set up. And I kind of made a mistake because I'd forgotten that I'd gotten in the habit of using the forward-facing GoPro on a chest mount. So I put on a harness, and that's why I have holes in all my shirts. Like there's a hole on this t-shirt because the harness is underneath my shirt, and then the GoPro mount sticks out this hole, and I attach the GoPro to my chest. And I eventually settled on that as the best option because it gives the best view. It gives a POV view of the handlebars of the bike. So you basically get a view of my arms and my hands holding the handlebars, changing the gears, applying the brakes, and you see the front of the bicycle and the road ahead of me. And that's a more interesting view, because what I ended up doing this time, I was thinking mainly about mounting the GoPro on the stick, the one that faces me, and I wasn't thinking as much about the other GoPro, and I was just going on autopilot to an extent, and I just mounted the GoPro on a RAM mount on the handlebars of the bike facing forward. So all you see is the road, and you see the stick, because I got this big stick aiming forward, and the GoPro is behind that stick. So in fact, I've got this view of this amazing, beautiful landscape, but it's got this giant, colorful broomstick like right in the middle, and you're just like staring at this broomstick the entire time. And yeah, it looks kind of weird. Yeah, it's hard to do. I've talked about this in the past. I mean, when you think about someone like a motorcycle vlogger or a scooter vlogger, they have it easier, like Itchy Boots. She has a fairly elegant system where she has a GoPro Mini mounted on the handlebars facing her. For my tastes, her GoPro Mini is mounted too low, so it's so low that it's actually aimed upwards at her. And I would prefer it to be raised up a little bit more, more at eye level, gives a more pleasing view of her and the view behind her. But what she does is good enough. But you can do that with a motorcycle because of the geometry. When you're sitting on a motorcycle, the handlebars are ahead of you and raised up. So you're almost like this, exactly how I'm sitting with my arms. That's what the motorcycle is like. So if you have a GoPro here on the handlebars, it's perfect. It's ahead of you and aiming backwards. But a bicycle is completely different because you sit forward and your body is angled above the handlebars, and the handlebars are right here. So you can't put a GoPro on the handlebars pointing backwards. It's just, you basically get a nice view of your stomach. That's all you're going to see. So what I had to do was figure out a way to put a GoPro ahead of the bicycle, and I do that with a broomstick. And then I worked out a way to mount, the broomstick, and I put the camera there facing back. And then when you have a GoPro on my chest or on the handlebars facing forward, you can see the broomstick. And Itchy Boots, she doesn't have that problem. I mean, she has her two cameras on the handlebars, but then she has her main GoPro is on a chin mount on her helmet. So that's her main GoPro, and that is her POV GoPro. And it's handy because you get a view of the road ahead and the motorcycle and the handlebars. And then as she turns her head, if she sees something interesting at the side of the road and she turns her head, the GoPro is now aiming in that direction. And if she gets off the bike, then as she walks around, that chin-mounted GoPro goes with her. It's not mounted on the bicycle, not mounted on the motorcycle. She doesn't have to, get off and then detach the camera and pick it up and walk around with it. It's always with her. Though at the same time, it means she has to keep her helmet on the entire time. So of course, if she gets off the motorcycle and she takes off her helmet, now the GoPro is on the helmet. And if she wants to leave the motorcycle, she has to do something with the helmet to aim the GoPro in the right direction. Anyway, it's a big involved process, whether you're on a motorcycle or a bicycle. But I find it's far more difficult on a bicycle. And that's why you'll often see cyclists will have only the view ahead of them because it's so easy to mount a GoPro on the handlebars. Click, there it is, pointing forward. And then if they ever film themselves, you'll see them holding the camera. So they got one hand on the handlebars of the bike, and then the other arm is way out here holding the GoPro. And then they'll film themselves for a few seconds, and it looks very awkward, because they're like trying to aim the GoPro, and they can't really control the bike because they've only got one hand on the handlebars, and they just film a few seconds and then they put it away. What I end up doing, of course, is filming longer sequences because everything for me is hands-free with my broomstick. The GoPro is attached to the bike, and I can just ride as normal, and the GoPro is filming me the entire time. But anyway, setting all of that up was very difficult and complicated and time-consuming, and I made the mistake of putting the GoPro on the handlebars when I should have put it on a chest mount. That would have given the more pleasing view. I started editing the video last night, and that's when I realized my mistake. It was like, dummy. I should have remembered that it's better to use the chest harness. And then I wish I had used the chest harness, but I didn't. But it's so complicated, and it's so easy to make mistakes. I'm editing the video last night, and oh, it's so stupid. I had the microphone under my shirt, like this Rode was under my shirt, and it was a bit lower down than this. And then because I was riding my bike uphill, like very steep, I'll talk about more about that in a minute, it was incredibly steep. And in order to keep the bike moving, I had to use all the strength in my legs, and it's like you're jerking forward. It's not a smooth motion. So the bike and me, I was kind of like rocking back and forth, and my reading glasses, which are around my neck, they were swinging and banging into my chest, and every time they hit my chest, the arm of the glasses hit the microphone. So all the time that I was cycling, you can hear it in the audio, like bang, thump, 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 the whole time. And I'm editing the video and thinking, oh, for Pete's sake, another amateur mistake. But the thing is, when you're recording audio, it's going straight into the GoPro. You don't hear it. You have no idea what you're recording. I mean, a professional movie production team, of course, they have someone off on the side, or they probably have 20 people all with headphones on, and they're listening to all the audio. And if there is, they can tell whether the microphones are working or not to begin with. I can't even tell that. I set up the camera, and then I'm assuming and hoping that audio is being recorded by the GoPro, that the microphones are plugged in and working. But I don't know for sure. So I have to stop all the time and check, replay a little bit of videos, like, okay, I'm getting audio. But it's not like I have earphones in and I'm listening to the audio the entire time. So I went this whole day, doing this cycling and thump, 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 thump. It's like, for Pete's sake. Every day that you shoot video, you discover a new mistake that you never made before. There seems to be no end, to the mistakes you can make. And there are other mistakes I could make because I'm using different audio settings. Like when I shoot one of these behind the scenes videos, I'm using my Olympus camera, and you have to use different audio input and output settings for this camera. And then if you change your microphones over to your GoPro, you have to remember that, and then you've got to change the settings every time you change cameras. And it's very easy to forget that as well. So on and on and on. The technical side, I find, is very, very challenging. And I was thinking about that because I'm looking at the LCD screen of my camera right now, and it looks like the audio is lower than before. Yeah, something weird is going on with the audio, but hey, we'll see how it works out. I don't really understand audio. I read all this about the proper settings, the settings you have to use for your microphone, combined with the settings in your camera, and they talk about this certain level you're supposed to achieve by combining the two settings, and I have no idea what they're talking about. I can never figure it out. Well, if my voice suddenly sounds different, it's because I changed the audio settings on my camera a little bit. I raised it up a little bit. We'll see whether it sounds better or worse. And yeah, even audio settings are different depending on the microphone you're using, because I have two different Rode microphones, the Rode Wireless Go. This is the original set, the very first one that they came out with. And yeah, I have those, and I have the new ones. So the new ones are in here. I'm not using them this morning, but the new ones, as I talked about before, they have two microphones and one receiver, which is very handy. I used them yesterday, and I'll talk about that in a minute as well. But these ones are also much more sophisticated. You have the ability to choose whether the audio goes to the left channel and the right channel, or only to the left or only to the right. You can merge the audio signals, or you can split it. And with this one, I have it set to split. This one doesn't have that capability. It's always merged, so I think that kind of confused me too, because on the screen I can see left and right channels, both the line going up and down. But whenever I use this one, I only see the left channel on one microphone and the right channel on the other microphone. So I kind of got confused as well about that. But it's all good. So I eventually got everything set up, and I rode away on my bicycle And I couldn't help it at the beginning of the video, the one I'm going to post to Planet Doug, I was also talking about setting up the GoPros on my bike. You know, I can't help it. I just spent an hour and a half, I think, total getting my bike ready to go out. So it was the first thing on my mind. And I'm riding through the village, and I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to get to this Puncak Kabun, because there's a web of small roads all over the volcano. I mean, it's very, very fertile soil, and the entire slope of the volcano, you know, Mount Singalang, is covered in rice fields and other types of farms. And there's people living all over there, little villages dotted here and there, and then roads. There's a little web of roads connecting them all. And then I was looking at Google Maps, and I thought the road I should take going from the main road up to Puncak Kabun. And that's the road I took. Gorgeous, gorgeous scenery. I mean, that was the highlight of the day. The highlight really wasn't the lookout point. Like once I got to the top and you get the view of the volcanoes and Bukittinggi and everything, to me that wasn't the highlight, because I've been cycling all over the Bukittinggi area, and I've seen the mountains and the volcanoes and the valleys from all sorts of perspectives. And I think I've seen it from much nicer vantage points. So in fact, the view itself from up there wasn't really that amazing. It was nice, but it didn't jump out at me as spectacular. I've seen nicer viewpoints. So that really wasn't the highlight, but the ride to get there and the ride back, I mean, that was stunning. I wasn't expecting that at all. I had no idea that there was so much beauty over there in the villages and the rice farms. Really, really stunning. Lush, lush, lush greenery. And because of all the rain, everything is just like, as I've talked about before, the green of it just practically burns your eyeballs. Everything is so vibrant and so green. And a lot of people were out. A lot of farmers in the fields, preparing fields, harvesting rice, planting rice, doing all kinds of things. So there's people everywhere. And I was quite the celebrity on my bike, of course. I always am when I go outside. Everybody was shouting hello and wanting to talk to me. And like a lot of people saw me, you know, on the bike, struggling, going up, and they're like giving me thumbs up, admiring my physical achievement. Though I could go back now and tell them that I did not deserve their thumbs up, because even though I was riding uphill at the beginning when the road got steep, I quickly gave up. Honestly, it was so steep. There was no point riding a bicycle. I mean, if you were crazy and you wanted to do it, I suppose you could do it, but there was no point. I mean, just like grinding up. I figured I was going to end up breaking the chain or breaking something else on the bike. And it was so terribly steep. My biggest problem was I would pop a wheelie. That's the main reason why I stopped cycling, because physically I could do it. I could keep going, though I think I was cycling slower than a walking pace, which again makes no sense at all to ride a bike. You know, you can get it down into first gear and your little legs are like zooming around like crazy, and you're going uphill at like 2.5 kilometers an hour. Someone heading out to the rice fields for the day, they walk right, they're walking faster than you're cycling. So obviously it just doesn't make any sense. But the biggest problem was the road was so steep that my front wheel just came up off the ground and I was going to flip over backwards. Maybe my bike just doesn't have the right wheelbase, the right length for me or something. But anyway, I was trying so hard to get over the handlebars, to get my weight over the handlebars to keep the wheel, but then it was like really awkward and hard to ride, and then the wheel would still come right off the ground, so that if your front wheel comes off the ground, you can't steer anymore. So the wheel pops a little wheelie, and then my whole bike kind of like goes over to the side, and I'm heading towards the ditch. And that happened a couple of times, and I thought, yeah, okay, this makes no sense. And I just got off the bike, and from that point all the way to the lookout point, I just walked, and I pushed the bike beside me. And that's how I got to the top. And even then, that was physically challenging. In the video, I mean, all you hear is me breathing, just and just pushing up and up and up, really, really steep. And then in the end, I found out that there was a better way to go. Yeah, what I discovered was the road I chose was not the main road that other people use to get to this viewpoint. I went straight up. But it turns out there was another road more for people coming from Bukit Tinggi, and they approach the volcano from this direction, and then they can sort of climb up more gradually and then ride along the side of the volcano to get there. So it was much more of a gradual incline, and I basically went straight up. So when I came down from the lookout point, I went in the other way this time. Instead of going straight down the way I'd come up, I took that other road that I discovered, and it went way off in this direction more gradually, and then I could turn around and come back again this way. I kind of invented my own, 4-kilometer long switchback, and that took me through like stunning countryside. Really, really beautiful. That was a gorgeous ride. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. So yeah, I got to the top, and as I said, the view itself didn't blow me away, but what I learned is that most people go up there for sunset. So I was there midday, as I always go everywhere in the morning. So I go in the morning, and I might arrive somewhere midday, and everything seems deserted, everything's closed, there's no people. And I always find out that I'm there just way too early. And turns out that at this place, people go for sunset. So I was talking with the owner of the coffee shop up there, and he said, yeah, at the end of the day, in the afternoon, he puts out chairs, a lot of chairs. And in his storeroom, I suddenly saw maybe 50, 100 chairs, plastic lawn chairs, all stacked up. And I looked at those. Oh, wow, you put all those chairs out. And he says, well, yeah, a lot of people come in the afternoon when it's cooler and when there's a sunset. And of course, me being a dummy, I go cycling at the hottest time of the day, when the sun is beating down, which is why I'm beet red, this morning. So I guess you're supposed to go there in the afternoon and enjoy the sunset. And I was there midday. Luckily, though, the man who owns this coffee shop, I made a note of the name of the place. His coffee shop is called Palanta Iniak Reda, Puncak Kabun. Palanta Iniak Reda, or Reda. I asked him to pronounce it, and he did a couple of times, but I couldn't get it into my brain. And then I took the opportunity to speak with this man because I got a cup of coffee from him, kopi susu, like milk, sweetened milk coffee. And then he was speaking with me in English, and he seemed fairly interested in talking with me. Like normally you would get your coffee, and then you go out into one of these little shelters, and then you enjoy the view as you drink your coffee. But he said, oh, why don't you just have a seat in here? And so I was like, yeah, sure, because I'd already seen the view. And I didn't really need to sit there taking it all in. And then I'd much rather talk with him, if he's willing to chat. So I sat inside his coffee shop area. I could still see outside, of course, but my back was to the view, enjoying my coffee. And I was chatting with him. And then while we were chatting, I thought, well, I have this 2-microphone wireless setup. I asked him, would he mind if I took the second microphone and put it on him, and then I could record some of our conversation. And in fact, I conducted a little bit of an impromptu interview, just asked him about his life, about his business, how it works, and when he founded the business, and basic things. And I learned some interesting things about him, mainly that at one point when he was younger, he had gone to Bali, and he spent 3 years on Bali running his own shop there. He said he was selling leather jackets to foreign tourists like me. And that's why he could speak English as well as he could, and also why he was so comfortable talking with me, because during his 3 years in Bali, he was talking with foreigners all the time. And he was probably gets foreign tourists up there as well. So yeah, he was very comfortable just to sit and chat with me, and I kind of, yeah, I did an interview with him using my fancy 2-microphone Rode Wireless Go. I haven't edited that portion yet, so I'll be interested to see how it turns out. So, as I said, when I came down from the lookout point, I went in a different direction, and I had a certain idea about what road I was going to take to get to what road, to get to what road, to eventually get back here. But I got a little bit lost. I went in the wrong direction. I blame Google Maps for that, because I was at one intersection, and I consulted Google Maps, and it gave me a little blue dot saying you are here. And based on that blue dot, I decided which way to go. But it turns out this happens quite a bit, where I forget about this, that if you load Google Maps, there's a delay. Like, you can't just turn on Google Maps, look at it, oh, that's where I am. You have to wait for your phone. If you have a weak connection, it's got to connect to the satellites, and the two of them have to communicate for a while, and then eventually it will show you where you really are. If you just turn on Google Maps and look, well, it's showing you where you were, right? So it was showing me where I was in the past, and I didn't realize that. So I went in the wrong direction, but it turned out to be a lucky mistake, because I stumbled across something quite interesting. I'd seen it on Google Maps beforehand, and I'd thought about going to look at it, but I ended up there completely by accident because I took the wrong corner. And it's one of these, I learned about the name when I was with Chatty and Fausen the other day, these big water reservoirs that are attached to houses and to mosques. They're called tabek, T-A-B-E-K, tabek. And off in this direction, on the slopes of Mount Singalong, there was a very big one, more like a lake or a large pond. And yeah, it just looked like it was a bit of a tourist attraction. You could go there and you could go fishing, and they have paddle boats. I didn't see any paddle boats yesterday, but I guess you could do that at some point. But anyway, it's a place for families to visit and hang out. You know, it's not your typical tabek attached to a house. It's much, much bigger and a tourist attraction. So my route just happened to take me right past it. So I got to see that place, and that was very nice. And then I eventually worked my way back to the main road, and then rode back up here. And yeah, that was the end of the day. I rode, I think, in total about 20 kilometers total. Well, I walked a lot of that going uphill, you know, pushing the bike. But I covered about 20 kilometers in the bright sun. It was a very bright, sunny day most of the time. So I got some sun, a lot on my face apparently. But yeah, it was a good day. And now I have all the video that I have to deal with. And yeah, too much video. I think that happens too if you're a cyclist and you have to hold your GoPro in your hand. In a way, that's better because it's such a hassle to do it. You wouldn't record much video, you know, because you're riding along, you got to stop, get out your camera, turn it on, set it up, start riding your bike, and then you hold it, say something about where you are, what's going on, and then you got to stop your bike, turn off the camera, put it away again. That would be such a hassle that, you know, you ride your bike for a whole day, maybe you end up with 5 minutes of video, and then you edit that down to like a minute and a half or something. Planet Doug, of course, I've got 2 cameras running pretty much the entire day, like non-stop. So I'm just riding along, and my GoPro is recording and recording and recording. And every time a thought pops into my head, you know, the camera's already running, right? So anything I happen to think about, I just start talking about. And of course, I ended up with a lot of video that I have to sort through. Took me most of the night just to copy the video from the memory cards into my various systems and label the folders and keep everything organized. So I think much of today is going to be spent editing that video. We'll see what I end up doing with it. And I may take the interview with the coffee shop owner and make that a separate video, because my main video about going up to the lookout point and coming back down, that's going to be a full Planet Doug video. And then if I add the interview, that would make it twice as long. So I think I'll need to separate those into 2 different videos. You know, in terms of a physical adventure, of course, It's nothing compared to what Itchy Boots has been going through. I checked eagerly this morning to see whether, let's see, Itchy Boots has posted the next video from her Liberia sequence, the muddy road in Liberia, and I don't think so. No, it's still part 2. That was 3 days ago. I think she posts a video pretty much every 3 days, and she's posted part 1 and part 2 of that Muddy Road in Liberia series, and I am waiting eagerly for the concluding part 3. Yeah, at the end of the last video, she'd gotten out of the mud, but discovered that her helper had burned out the clutch on her motorcycle, so now she can't change gears, and she still has like 500 kilometers to get to Abidjan, you know, the capital of Ivory Coast. And when she gets there, she's going to have to order. She doesn't have clutch plates in her bags, you know. She's going to have to order them from Europe, and they're going to be shipped there. And so she's going to be in Abidjan for a while, getting her motorcycle repaired. Anyway, I'm looking forward to video number 3. But yeah, my adventure yesterday, you know, 20 kilometers, going up to a beautiful lookout point, sipping 2 cups of coffee, and then coming back down again, and just gorgeous scenery, was nothing compared to her experience. But I have to say, by the time I got back here, I was both physically and mentally wiped out. I was tired, emotionally, physically, every other way. And part of the problem, again, behind the scenes details, is that I was really sick during the day. I think changing from a Malaysian diet to an Indonesian village diet finally caught up with me. And I knew something was wrong even in the morning. There was like there was a bloated fullness going on. It was like, okay, this doesn't feel right. There's something wrong, and I'm going to pay for this later. But I still felt okay. I thought I could go for a bit of a ride. And I spent the day out, and I didn't have anything to eat. I didn't have any breakfast. I didn't have any lunch. I didn't have any dinner because I just couldn't. I didn't dare risk it when I was out on the mountains. You know, I could have had noodles and things out there, and I passed plenty of restaurants, but I didn't dare have any food because I could feel like my whole digestive system was right on the edge, and if I had something to eat, it would kickstart the whole system, and I would need a bathroom very, very fast. So I just didn't dare eat. And so I had nothing to eat the entire day. And I had very little to drink either. I had 2 cups of coffee, like small coffees when I met the guy, and a tiny bottle of Sprite. I didn't dare drink water either because I had this volcano bubbling and gurgling inside of me. You know, the volcano I was on did not erupt, but Volcano Doug was on its way, and I could tell. I've been on this earth long enough, dealing with upset stomachs long enough. I know the symptoms, and I knew what was coming, and it was not going to be good. So I had nothing to eat all day, and that probably led into feeling a bit weak, perhaps. And so when I got back here, I was worn out from the day. Just like pushing that bike uphill, it's a lot harder than you'd think. As always, I'm really disappointed in the GoPro video. From what I've seen anyway, there's a couple of spots. It was so steep, it was ridiculously steep, that I decided to film it. So I walked ahead of my bike and I put the GoPro on the road, and then I walked back to my bicycle and I filmed myself pushing the bike because I wanted to capture the steepness. But when I watch the video, it just looks like I'm walking down a country road. I mean, it doesn't look steep at all. So it's like, something about camera angles just does not convey the slope of land or the road that you're on. So anyway, trust me, it's steeper than it looks. But anyway, I was pretty worn out. I was pretty tired. And when I got back here, you'd think I would be hungry and I could enjoy a good dinner, but no. By the time I got in here and unpacked and I plugged in all my batteries, it was like my body says, okay, get ready, here it comes. And I was in the bathroom for the rest of the night. It was bad. And yeah, I'm still suffering the aftermath this morning. Who knows what it was? something made me very, very sick. And today is going to be probably non-food day as well. Maybe I'll feel well enough by this afternoon that I'll be able to get something to eat. We will see. But yeah, Volcano Doug, I could feel it coming all day long, you know. And I was actually pretty happy that it was contained for most of the day, and my body took pity on me and says, okay, we're going to keep things under control until you get back home. And when I got back home, my body says, all right, buckle up, buddy. You're in for a ride. And yeah, definitely. So yeah, I'll probably have something to eat, you know, this afternoon. I'll have to have some food anyway, but a light snack if I can figure that, if I can get that. So yeah, no video from Itchy Boots to talk about, but I have 2 new YouTube channels. My YouTube stories, that segment of my video journal. I'll just chat about them a little bit because I find them interesting. There are so many travel vloggers out there now, and new ones are born constantly. And I guess this couple appeared in my feed yesterday. The channel is called Jayesh Chaya. So I don't know his the name. I'm assuming Indian or Pakistani, but he's from the UK. So this guy is from the UK, Jayesh Chaya. So Chhaya. And he's traveling with his girlfriend. She hasn't really said much in the 1 or 2 videos that I've watched, but I think she's from Poland. So a young couple. He's from the UK, she's from Poland, and they've only been doing this for like 2 or 3 weeks. I couldn't believe it. They just started. They landed in Singapore, and then they went to Malaysia, and yeah, they're in Malaysia right now. And they landed in Singapore like 2 or 3 weeks ago, according to the video history. The videos are probably a little bit behind. And I guess that's why it showed up in my feed, because, you know, they're in Malaysia now. And yeah, I kind of get a kick out of these. I don't know why it happens, but people who visit Malaysia as travel vloggers tend to copy each other. I keep wondering whether they're deliberately copying other travel channels, because they see that the video titles they use, the thumbnails they use, the subjects they use, and if they see these videos are popular, they just do exactly the same thing because the language is so similar. I've joked about this often in the past, where people who come to Malaysia, come to Kuala Lumpur in particular, they're always shocked. Everybody is shocked and amazed, and they can't believe it, and you couldn't believe, oh, this is Malaysia. I was shocked. I was amazed. They all use that language. And so I was scanning their videos. They have like 15 of them. Yeah, 15 videos, 4,000 subscribers. And they're very popular videos. Like, as I said, their channel is 2 weeks old. And their first video has over 100,000 views. Then all their videos from Singapore, 31,000, 34,000, 41,000. And then in Malaysia, about the same, 50,000, 30,000, 20,000, 25,000. So in that range. And there are people out there who've been vlogging for years and years and years. There's one of them right here. And their videos, my videos, never get close to 50,000 views, So that's pretty impressive. They start shooting video 3 weeks ago, and, they're getting 50 to 100,000 views for their videos. But I was amused by the titles. Now, to go from Singapore to Malaysia, of course, they rode on the luxury bus. And of course, once they got into Malaysia, it's all praise, that everything is amazing, everything is wonderful. They can't believe how friendly Malaysians are, on and on. That normal kind of thing. And then when they got to Kuala Lumpur, of course, the thumbnail, Petronas Towers in the background, of course. And is this really Malaysia? Kuala Lumpur has shocked us. That shocked. We were shocked. We can't believe it. Everybody uses that title for their video. So, I chat with Daryl from the Wander Eats YouTube channel about this. He's kind of used to me talking about my various pet peeves when it comes to YouTube vloggers, when I see this sort of pattern. And we joked that I should do the same thing, that when I go back from Sumatra back to Malaysia, I should do that. I should make a video. Even though I've been in Kuala Lumpur a lot, I could make a video and say, oh, I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. And just put that in the title, just for fun. But then this couple, Jayesh, Chaya, then they did the normal things, trying roti canai. Foreigners try Ramly burger for the first time. I can't believe this is Malaysia. Foreigners tried nasi lemak for the first time. But then there's some odd titles, which I was kind of curious about. One of the more recent ones from 6 days ago is called Kuala Lumpur Street Foods Locals Don't Want You to Know About. And I was like, well, why wouldn't the locals is also one of my pet peeves, It's like calling everybody locals, I met some locals, I had lunch with locals. I always find that kind of amusing. But I can't imagine, I haven't watched that video, but why wouldn't Malaysians want you to know about this food? What could that possibly mean? I haven't figured that out yet. I'll have to watch this video and figure out why are Malaysians keeping this food secret from any visitors. And then the next one is called The Kuala Lumpur They Don't Show You. And again, I was kind of puzzled by that when I saw it. It's like, and it says the real Malaysia. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Maybe they're showing a side of Malaysia that's not so flattering. Because YouTube vloggers, of course, they do nothing but heap compliments on Malaysia, and Malaysians just nothing but praise and how amazing and wonderful everything is. That's the standard YouTube approach. And I thought, oh, maybe they're digging down, they're getting political or something, and they're digging in and finding some gritty stuff, a less beautiful side of Malaysia, a less pleasant side or something. Like, what is this Malaysia that the locals don't want you to see? And it turns out they're talking about Kampong Baru. For some reason, they say that the Kuala Lumpur, they don't show you. But I'm not sure who they is. Like, they don't show you? I'm not quite sure why Kampong Baru would be in that category. Because, of course, it's one of the biggest attractions of Kuala Lumpur. I mean, everybody knows about Kampong Baru. You've got, that amazing bridge connecting, the Petronas Towers, KLCC area with Kampong Baru. And everybody goes there because it's well known for lots of delicious traditional Malay food. Everybody goes there to get nasi lemak. So I'm not sure why the locals don't show you this and don't want you to know about it. But anyway, I watched some of that video and there's nothing in it that is unusual. They went there and they talked about how it's kind of a village atmosphere, but right in the middle of a bustling modern Kuala Lumpur. And they try all the local foods in Kampong Baru. So, yeah, kind of an odd title. I'm still going to have to I'm going to have to watch the other video and find out about all this food that the locals are hiding from us. What could it be? And then they went to Cameron Highlands. And is this Malaysia or Britain? We did not expect this. So again, they're amazed by the Cameron Highlands. And then their latest one is in the same vein, and I don't really understand it. It says, is this really Malaysia? Tourists don't know about this place. And I thought, what could this possibly be? And I watched maybe half of that video, and it's all about Ipoh. And again, I'm pretty sure tourists know about Ipoh. I mean, it's a pretty popular place. The scenery there, it's in between KL and Penang. And a lot of vloggers in particular go there because it's known for the food culture in Ipoh. But anyway, yeah, I guess titles like that attract people and you click on them. The thumbnail says, Our Little Secret, with a shh. Like, don't tell anyone about this amazing place we discovered. So I'm clicking on it. It's like, wow, what is this place? And I'm watching, oh, Ipoh. I know about Ipoh. So it's like, okay. So that was one channel that I discovered, Jayesh Chaya. Pretty amazing though, as I said, 2 weeks old and a very popular channel. But they're very young and they're very positive and they're very enthusiastic and they're very happy. They're not like the old, worn out, Planet Doug kind of guys, sort of like, they're young and optimistic. And I think they're seeing a lot of these things, experiencing them for the first time in their life. So that gives their attitude and their videos a different tone. If I go out to a market, it's not like the first time I've ever been to one of these markets. So I guess my approach is a little bit more sedate, shall we say. And there's one more YouTube channel, YouTube travel vloggers, that I came across last night and this morning, actually, because Daryl from Wander Eats, he sent me a link to this travel vloggers YouTube channel. And I think he was thinking I'd be interested in it because they've come to Malaysia and they are a Canadian couple. So this one is called Jan and Ann. So Jan, that's the guy, and Ann is the woman, Jan and Ann. And the whole vibe of their channel looks very professional, very well organized. They know exactly who they are and what they're about. And they've been doing this for a lot longer than I thought. 3 years of like actual YouTube style videos. They've been doing it for a lot longer than I expected. I thought they would be like kind of newcomers. And then they started 3 years ago, but then 2 years ago, they left Canada and they moved to the Philippines. And this was right in the middle of the pandemic, so they had to go into quarantine in the Philippines. So when I do a deep dive on their channel, I'm going to start there. I'm going to start with the leaving Canada and moving to the Philippines, and they call it episode 1. And that's the only one they've ever... Oh no, there's episode 2, episode 3. But I think they eventually abandoned the episode numbering system. They just started posting videos. But yeah, they were in the Philippines for years, like this entire time. So I want to find out, like, what were they doing there? I mean, just scanning their videos, their lifestyle, the way they look. My impression is they've got money. So even when they left Canada, they already had money. They're living a luxurious lifestyle. So it's not really, they're not really, if you want to make this distinction, this distinction, I couldn't come up with the word distinction. If you want to make this distinction, a backpacker style traveler, low budget versus a high budget tourist, they're more on the tourism end of things. They do touristy things and, go on group tours and they stay in nicer hotels and things like that. So they're more on that scale, which makes them a little bit less interesting to me. I'm more interested in the backpacker style of travel, a little bit more low budget, a little bit more independent travel rather than smoothing everything out with money. But I'm curious, like I said, I think they have money. And actually, I just saw a little bit of a video this morning, just scanning through their channel, and I clicked on one, and it happened to be, I think it's them leaving from Singapore and taking the bus to Malaysia or something like that. And you see them leaving their hotel and then going through transportation. And man, they look so clean. They look so perfect, like they just stepped off a fashion show. Her in particular. They're both very attractive people, young and extremely attractive and very, very, very well dressed. And her outfit was like perfect from top to bottom. They look so clean and healthy and happy and optimistic, and everything about them looks perfect. And they have this, the rolling suitcase, his and hers matching suitcases. Like they just strike me as so different from me. I look in the mirror these days, and like my stories from yesterday, the volcano gurgling inside me, and that's how my days go. And I look in the mirror, big bags under my eyes, and on and on. And I watch these two coming out of their hotel room, and like, wow. Look at these people. They're so fresh and young and beautiful. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, they were in and out. They were all over the Philippines. Like I said, I haven't done a really deep dive, but they went all over the Philippines. I don't know how far I'll be able to get into their videos. I'll probably pick and choose just to get a sense, because like I said, I don't think their style of living and their overall style is not, it's not meant to appeal to someone like me. It's yeah, they're way too happy. Just, yeah, I need more people more like me. I don't need these incredibly youthful, happy people. So, but yeah, Boracay. And there's a bunch of cliches I see in the videos, which again is not designed to appeal to me. Like there's their first Boracay video. Before you travel to Boracay, watch this. I never like that clickbait kind of a style. And then it says, is it safe? And I don't like the fear mongering in particular when it comes to YouTube videos. And most YouTubers will do that at some point, particularly if they go to somewhere that may have a reputation for not being safe. You know, it's like, oh, I went to the most dangerous slum in Lima, Peru. You know, is it safe? You know, I'm going to Malaysia. Is it safe? All this fear mongering. I don't really like that. I mean, if you're going to Boracay, obviously it's safe. It's like one of the major resort islands of the world, designed for tourists. It's designed to be easy to go to and to have a good experience. So to talk about Boracay not being safe, maybe it's pandemic related. I don't know. But yeah, I see stuff like that, and then I took a look at their Malaysia videos. And as I've joked with Daryl, I've developed the Planet Doug Batu Caves test, because every vlogger that comes to Kuala Lumpur, of course, they all visit the Batu Caves at some point. And then I will make a judgment on them in terms of how they visit Batu Caves and what they say about them. And if they want the Planet Doug seal of approval, they have to do or not do a certain number of things, you know. So there's some things that count against them and some things that count in their favor. So yeah, I'm joking about this, of course, but I kind of enjoy doing it. So I always watch all the Batu Caves videos, and then I make a judgment call. I give them a score. So I watched their Batu Caves experience, and yeah, they failed my test. They failed the Planet Doug test. For one thing, I mean, they went there as part of a group tour, so they signed up for like a tourism company, and they had a bunch of people in the same vehicles or van or something, and they drove around to a bunch of places in KL all in one day with a guided tour, and that's how they ended up at Batu Caves. Which again is not really my style. I would prefer it if they got there by local train and they had to figure out how to get to KL Central and how to get the KTM train up to there and that sort of thing. That's what I would prefer. And then, you know, I'm being very petty. If the vlogger talks about the 272 steps ad nauseum, I hold that against them. Because most vloggers do, you know, it's like, oh, we got to climb all the way up these steps. Oh, it's so tiring. Oh, we're halfway. Oh, it's so... And it's like, give me a break. It's 272 steps to get to the top. We're not talking about a big deal. So if a vlogger goes to Batu Caves and just walks up the steps without making a big deal out of it, they get a Planet Doug stamp of approval. But if they go on and on about, oh, it's so tiring and I'm getting so exhausted, so many steps, I hold that against them. And if the vlogger knows that Batu Caves is a Hindu temple, that it's related to, you know, the Tamil people of India, like it's because the giant statue there it's a temple dedicated to Lord Murugan, and you know, the Tamil connection. If they know any of those things and mention them in the video, that gets them points. But if in the video, I mean, they see a giant statue and they just say, oh, look at the big statue and here's the cave, and This couple in particular never mentioned Lord Murugan, so that's a point against them. They never mentioned, they didn't know actually when they went there. They said they had no idea it was a Hindu temple. They just knew they were going to a place called Batu Caves because it was on the list, you know, the tour list. And they just thought it was going to be a cave. And they had no idea it was a Hindu temple. So not only did they not know it was like a Tamil, in particular important to the people of Tamil Nadu in India, you know, the Tamil people and the Tamil culture, then not only did they not know that, they didn't even know it was a Hindu temple. So yeah, so I was scoring them very badly on the Planet Doug's Batu Caves test. And if a vlogger looks at all the monkeys and knows that they are macaques and actually identifies them as macaques, that gets them points. And in this case, of course, they just called them monkeys. They had no idea that they were, you know, macaques. So if a vlogger goes to the extent of learning what type of monkey they are and they're macaques, that gets them Planet Doug points. And they didn't get any Planet Doug points there. And they do, I have a pet peeve with the whole guys thing, where they address their audience in the video as guys. Like just constantly throughout the whole video, I start hearing the word guys, and then I just can't, once I hear it, I can't stop hearing it. It's like, okay guys, we're at Batu Caves guys, and oh, look at the monkeys guys. Okay guys, this is, and let's go guys, and all right guys, and just over and over again. That loses them Planet Doug points. And when they were at Batu Caves, there was a lot of guys, you know, hey guys, let's go guys, and on to the next attraction guys, and a lot of guys going on. So a Planet Doug pet peeve. Planet Doug pet peeve, that's a PDPP, PDPP. But anyway, I noticed throughout their history, they posted a lot of videos. How many? 184 videos, but basically over the last, most of them over the last 2 years. 3 years to 7 years ago, they posted 5 videos, but that was, you know, just random from time to time. And then 2 years ago, they got serious, and within that time, they posted 179 videos over the last 2 years, you know, so they've been busy. They shoot with a GoPro Hero 8, and they have a Sony A7 IV with a G-Master 16 to 35 millimeter lens. They have a drone, so very professional editing, lots of music and drone shots and a fancy introduction and all these sorts of things. So those are Jan and Anne, young couple from Canada. Yeah. I noticed in their videos, they do a bunch of Q&A videos where they answer questions and talk about how much money they make from YouTube and the technical behind the scenes stuff. So I'm probably going to watch their Q&A videos, and then I'll pick and choose some other ones, places that I'm interested in the Philippines. And of course, I'll watch their Malaysia videos as they go through there. So YouTube stories. Those are my YouTube stories for today. And I think that is it for this morning's morning journal. I have lots of other things I could talk about, of course, but I've got to get on with my day. And I feel a bit weird about today because my plan was to edit video all day. And I'm still not recovered from the Planet Doug volcano, the internal volcano. But the weather out there is amazing. I can't really see anything. Like looking out my window, all I see is like a bamboo wall of another building. So I don't actually have a view of anything from here. But I can see that it's sunny out there. So I really should go somewhere today. I don't want to waste this sunny weather. When I was talking with the owner of the coffee shop up at the Lookout Point, and I was doing my little interview with him, while I was up there, the rain clouds moved in. So it was beautifully sunny, blue skies in the morning, but then clouds came over the volcano, and then by the time I left, it was just like black, dark clouds everywhere. So we were talking about the rain, and I was asking him about the rainy season. It's like, okay, this rainy season, when does it end? And to my utter depression, he said, well, technically the rainy season hasn't even started yet. He says the rainy season, this one is supposed to start in August. And he said this month, the month of July, it's supposed to be beautiful and sunny. But he said the last 2 years, or the last few years, everything is screwed up. That he said this year in particular, he said, has been the wettest, rainiest year he has ever seen. And that all this rain in July, he said, is very unusual. It's not supposed to be raining right now. It's supposed to be clear and sunny. But I thought, okay, that's typical, you know, rain god here. Wherever I go, the rain clouds follow me and they love me and want to rain on me everywhere I go. So, yeah, no surprise. But yeah, today is very nice. And I do feel this sense of regret that, oh, I should be out taking advantage of this sun. But I'm probably not going to. I'm going to edit video, drink some coffee, and I'm going to work on my bike system a little bit, because when I was shooting the video yesterday, I got so fed up with the GoPro mounting and dismounting cameras, because the system I have now is on the GoPro stick. I have a RAM mount on the end, because a RAM mount is very, very strong and you can really tighten it down. But a RAM mount has GoPro fingers on the top. So every time I want to remove the GoPro and put it back onto the bike, I have to undo the thumb screws and take the whole thing apart and then attach it to another grip using thumb screws. And it's just such a pain. It's so hard to do. It's so fidgety and difficult. So I might spend some time this morning seeing if I can somehow mount a quick release buckle on my rig that I have there. And then it'll be so much better if I could just use quick release. I think I tried to do it in the past, but I couldn't work out a system for it. And quick release buckles aren't as tight as the fingers, so you get a little bit of rattling in there, and then it ends up, you need a couple of different adapters or something, and the GoPro ends up top heavy and wants to spin over. But maybe I can work something out. Then I can have, a quick release buckle. I put the GoPro on there, I click it into place, and I want to go onto a hand grip. I just click it. So today I might spend some time once again trying to figure out a way that I can easily attach and detach my GoPro and move it from mount to mount. I've been doing this for years and I still haven't figured out a way to do it. Either I'm very dumb, or I'm trying to be too complex, too complicated, or the whole GoPro system really doesn't work for the way I like to use it. It's probably a mixture of all those things. Anyway, Planet Doug morning journal. That's about the end of my thoughts, I think. I'm going to shut down, and I'll see you in the next video.